and welcome to Model Kit Stuff, and today's first impressions video we're looking at this Tamiya's 1/24 scale Mercedes-Benz 300 SL. Now I reckon if Aston Martin never existed, this is the car James Bond probably would have driven in those first movies. Pretty cool looking car. Let's take a look at it more closely. So one way or another, there are quite a lot of 300 SL model kits knocking about if you look closely, but a lot of them are, or in fact the vast majority of them are reboxers of the Hella 1975-ish. This one is a 2015 tool, so it's in my book that's still a new tool kit. It's been so I guess it's 7 years old now, so it's going to be up to a modern standard more than the Hella kit was, and as it's Tamiya, I'm expecting some pretty good engineering, so let's have a bit of a look at it. So on the top box we get an absolutely gorgeous picture of the car with its gull wing doors open. It tells you that it's 1/24 scale, and if we look here in the smaller print, it tells you that the length is 188 millimeters, or nearly 19 centimeters, and 75 millimeters wide. So it's a decent size model. It says the gull wing doors are movable, has a realistically reproduced tubular frame, an opening hood, bonnet in the real world, displays an accurate engine. So yeah, that's all good. Ready to assemble, precise model kit for hobbyists, not a toy. Beautiful top box. The two sides are the same and replicate what we've got on the top. I am just looking for a kit number, which I'm missing. Oh, there we go. Item number is 24338, and then it has star 4200. I'm not quite sure what that means. On this side here, we have a picture of that tubular frame they were talking about with the engine and the wheels. We can see the exhaust with a little chrome cap on it, and then there's a little bit of history about the car here, which is nice. And then on this side we've got another couple of paint options. I've got to say I really like the red. I'm a bit of a sucker for red cars. I drive a red car. I do like a red car. And then there is the paint shout-outs for that version only, and then another image of the car taken in the boot and the rear there. Okay, so that all looks really nice. Let's hope the kit comes up to the expectations from the box. So inside the box is absolutely rammed. Usual standard of packaging from Tamiya. Box is a little bit thin and flimsy, so it needs to be packed well, otherwise any shipping damage that we're familiar with these days wouldn't take much to punch through that box. Has a divider in the middle which is actually stapled in, which is keeping the car body from getting scratched, so it's been thought about the packaging. And then we've got a whole stack of sprues in different colours, so younger modelers could build that without any paint and come up with a quite nice looking car in its own right, I'd guess. Okay, with all of that said, let's have a look at the instructions. So there's quite a bit of paperwork in the box, so let's start with the tech tips. So simple monochrome A4 double-sided page, and it basically takes you through their tools and basic, very top tips. So if you'd never built a model kit before and this was your first model kit, you'd know that how to navigate through certain things. It tells you what glues to use for different materials. I think it's quite a nice little way of doing it. Several companies are now doing it. I think the one that I've seen that I like the best is the Airfix one in the new style starter kits. They just need to put it in the instructions, and I think that's my same comment with this sheet. When my daughter built the Airfix Quick Build, because she'd made 2 or 3 models, she felt she didn't need to look at the separate sheet, and didn't. And as a result, she missed washing her parts. So, and I had to remind her to do it. So for me, I think it'd be nice if step 1, if you like, was the technical tips in the instructions. But, you know, that's just a thought. Doing this is brilliant. It's great for the younger people, and it shows it quite clearly. They use a combination of Japanese and English in the language, but the imagery is clear enough to give you a basic understanding. So I like that. So that's the first piece of paperwork. Then the second thing is background information. So we've got this gatefold, ends up being what, A3, is it? A bit smaller perhaps, which gives you this nice little drawing of the car. Now, quite often these are to scale, so let's just check that. Yeah, I think that's actually slightly, yeah, it is. It's slightly bigger. It's not to scale in this instance, but it's a nice clear picture, and it's giving us some decal locations, so painting and marking. So we can see the decals, we can see the, it's telling you the hubs are the same colour as the body, for example. They'll be quite tricky to paint. Gives you some tips on painting and decals, and as we turn it over, we've got a little bit of history about it. Quite an iconic car, so tells you a little bit about it there. So the instruction booklet is a typical booklet for Tamiya. It's black and white, and it's gate folded rather than a stapled booklet. It's not A4, it's a bespoke size, and it sort of all folds out. So the upside of these is they're quite compact. The downside of these is you're doing a lot of folding, you're not just turning a page, but it doesn't really make a great deal of difference, I guess. We start with a nice little picture there. I'm guessing it's the same photo used on the box art, but with the wings closed, of the actual model. A little bit of health and safety. Then we get a full list of paints, and it's not a massive list, but it's larger than you might expect for a car. Tamiya always do their paint lists very thoroughly, so I expect everything is covered off there nicely. And then, going back to my earlier comment about including in the instructions, they have listed the basic tools required. So, yeah, drill, knife, tweezers, scissors for your decals, glues and nippers, and you'll pretty much get through. I think they should add abrasives, but, you know, that's just me. And then when we turn over the page, there's quite a lot of writing here, which is all about how-tos, so masking stickers and how to apply metal transfer, so stuff that you're going to see maybe even particular to this kit. So that's you know, really helpful. Just have to make sure that you read your way through all of this before you get to the first step. And then, of course, they're promoting their products a little bit. So in step 1, we're straight into this tubular frame, which I guess was done to add strength and keep weight down at the time. So we've got quite a few parts going together there. It seems we've got a main frame and then little parts going on. And then in step 2, that continues. and we seem to have, oh yeah, so first frame, second frame, and then they sandwich together to make that assembly. Okay, understand that now. And then in step 3 we are adding suspension. So it looks like we've got separate moulded springs, building up the wheel hubs there, shock absorbers. So they're all building up around this axle that's gone in. And then in step 4 we're doing exactly the same at the other end of the vehicle. This must be the front. That looks like the steering rod. Then in step 5 we are building up the engine. Now I guess if you don't want to build the engine, you could just have the hood closed and that'd be fine, but we've got it, why wouldn't you build it? Looks not too difficult to assemble, but with a bit of nice painting, I'm guessing that'll come up quite nicely. So yeah, a little bit of trimming to do to get the rocker covers to fit. But yeah, okay, engine is step 5. Let's just get ourselves to step 6. In step 6, we're finishing the engine. We've got the manifolds, distributor, timing belts, all going in. And one of the things I do like about Tamiya instructions, Tamiya instructions can be a little bit busy, but they put lots and lots of detail into each step. So they're talking about the glue. They're telling you here to scrape off paint from areas that are going to be glued. You know, they've got little tips going all the time. So you do have to study them for a moment or two before you get stuck into the build, because there's all sorts of little things that you might miss if you don't look at them thoroughly. So that's step 6, finishing the engine. Step 7, we're mounting the engine. And the prop shaft there, so we must be rear wheel drive. Then we're making up the fuel tank, and again, another thing I like about Tamiya instructions is it tells you what the thing is, so you know it's a fuel tank. Gives you a bit of an education if you don't know anything about cars. If you're a kid and never driven a car or had to get used to one, you know, this is all good information. Once that's in place, we're then building the dashboard. So we've got quite a bit of components to go on there, and it looks like we've got decals as well. So that's nice. That means we're going to have quite a nice level of detail in that engine bay. So that is really good. Doesn't actually tell you what some of these things are. You know, I'm guessing windscreen washer bottle and the like. But again, shows you a little picture to make sure you've got your orientation correct. And then on the other side of that, as we put this into the subframe here, we've got the pedals being mounted in. Step 9, and we have radiator, steering rod, some pipe work, some hoses, so that's all nice. Again, more decals going on, so we're adding quite a lot of detail into that area, so I think having the bonnet up is going to show this model off at its best. Then in step 10 we are building up the wheels, so we've got steel wheel, separate hub, and rubber tyre, just like the real thing. I'm guessing the tyre is rubber, but we will have a look in a minute. And then we've got make 4 sets. Right, so all 4 wheels are the same. There's some little bits that we have to cut out before assembly, and then they basically just go on with a single pin into the hubs that we've built. Step 11, and we're building up the dashboard. So we've got a 2-part dashboard, steering column, steering wheel. Again, looks like we've got decals there. and decals for the dial, which is nice, and for the little logo. And it's telling you here the paint scheme, so body colour at the top, and then XF7, is that red? XF7's red, isn't it? That'll be the interior colour that's then following through in the carpets and stuff, I'd imagine. And then we've got the these are the wheel arches, and it's body colour on the inside, and X18, so is that satin black on the inside? Yeah, okay, so that is looking like that's the inside part for the car. So that's step 11 done. And then step 12, we've got the two seats going in, and we've got the dashboard being fitted, the gear stick, looks like little grab handles that go there, and then the handbrake. We have some more detail there, I'm not quite sure what that is. Dash mounted rear view mirror, which again has a decal, so that's probably a little metal chrome one to make it mirrored. And then it's telling you the paint colours again, and we have these little speakers here that go in. Oh, fairly cool, I think. Step 13 is dealing with the car body, clean up, drilling a hole, what needs to be removed, what needs to be painted, so body colour, rubber seals, so on and so forth. Then in step 14 we're dealing with fitting the bonnet, so you're putting it in at the back, moving it forward, and then they're suggesting taping it down to temporarily hold it in place. So that's 14 steps. So in step 15 we're building up the two gull-wing doors, and it's nice to see little things like the handles being separate parts. It means they'll be nice and crisply moulded, and you won't have any issues with soft moulding or things being a lump of plastic when they could be better defined. So that should look really nice. It looks like the door liner goes over the tabs that hold the glass in place. So as always with Tamiya, nicely engineered, nicely thought through. So I'll be interested to have a look at that in a minute. Then in step 16 we're starting to fit out the upper body. So we've got the rear fixed glazing going in at the back of the cabin, and then we've got these air scoops going in behind the front wheel arch, and that looks like the hinges then for the bonnet that we'd tape down, so that should then become usable. Then in 17 we have the gull-wing doors going on and again being taped into place. They have a single hinge there that runs through the top of the roof by the looks of it. Is that a hinge? Not quite sure. And then we've got the mesh going in the bonnet there, so cut mesh out to size, so you're using that as a template basically. So we must have some mesh supplied. I imagine Tamiya's famous black mesh. That wants to be silver, does it want to be silver? I'm not sure. And then windscreen and rear screen going in as well. Step 18, and we're building up the headlights. 2 parts. Shows you the bits you need to cut off, the ejector pin tabs and so on. And then we're building up the indicators as well. X26 and X27. I'm guessing they're clear colours, clear red and clear orange. If I was guessing, I hope I'm guessing correctly, but that's what I think. And then in step 19 we are fitting the headlights, fitting the forward grille, adding the decal there with the logo, adding decals on the boot. It appears that the boot is fixed in place and not opening. Yeah, we've got other fittings going on here, so all the little chrome bits and pieces. It'll be interesting to see how usable they are. And then we're adding the interior components into the car hull. So 20 steps and we're almost there, I think. And if we go over to step 21, we're then adding all that framework into the body. So we've got the framework, we've got the interior components and the outer body all coming together there. And that means we can then add the exhaust and the little chrome cap. Now, interestingly, that was added on in the picture, but you can see here that the lower floor pan needs to be added in first before the framework goes in. So, yeah, interesting. Then it's talking about choices of number plates. So there's a sort of a European or a US style of plate, and that's ahead of building up the bumpers which have separate overriders and separate number plates. Looks like there's some bits and pieces to cut out there. Be interesting to see how they've attached the sprue gates to the parts on the chrome parts. Okay, so we then carry on. Step 23, we've got a wing mirror just on the driver's side, which appears to be on the wrong side of the car, strangely, don't know. We put the bumpers on, and then we've got the little retaining arm to keep the opening bonnet in place. That looks a little bit chunky there. We'll have to see what the part looks like. And then we've got the little struts being added for the gull-wing doors. I think that finishes off, yes. So 24 steps. Quite a detailed little build for a car. Lots of little components there going in and lots of decals. So it's going to look really detailed. Let's have a look at some plastic. Actually, before we look at plastic, let's have a look at what's in this little bag. We've got all sorts of little goodies in this bag. I'm just going to carefully take them out. We've got a decal protection sheet, a large one. And then we've got 3 different sheets of decals, none of them the same size as the protection sheet. So let's have a look at these. Oh, okay, 2 sets of decals. Right, so we have the mesh that we saw being talked about for the grille, and it is the standard Tamiya mesh. It's a nice fine mesh. It's quite nice to work with. It's relatively thick and stiff. So, yeah, that shouldn't cause any problems at all. Then we've got 2 window masks there for the fixed rear glazing. So I'm guessing that they are thinking that you want to mask those off and paint the whole thing with those fitted. That might be to do with the rubber seals on them or something. I don't know, I'm not sure, but they've only given you 2, so you've only got the outside of the glass. So if you're painting it, you're probably going to want to paint the inside as well, because I'd imagine some of those struts would be visible on the inside. So I'm not sure that fully does what we want. But if it means that the rubber seals are moulded into the glass, that could be a handy way of masking it off to paint the seals before you put the parts in place, in which case that will be quite useful. So I can't remember from the instructions what that was, but we'll have a look at the plastic parts and work it out. So we have two lots of decals. We have sort of ordinary decals, and then these metallized ones, and they have a little plastic film over the top. and they are a great little product. So they're like 3D printed decals. They're slightly raised, so as logos and stuff, they're probably a little on the thin side, but they look so much better than the decal, traditional decal. So we seem to have like a chassis number. We've got a ring. We've got a little disc for something. Boot catch, the logos, the various logos that go inside and outside the car, and then the little badge there that's going to go, I'm not sure, is that going on the steering wheel? I can't remember. But yeah, they're really nice. I love them. And then we have a small ordinary decal sheet, which has got, well, we've got the manufacturer's mark again for the wheel hubs, so that's really handy. I thought they were going to be tricky to paint, but actually what you can do is just paint the disc and then stick them on, and it'll look like the paint's behind it, as it should be. They're a little thick. Anyone who's familiar with Tamiya models will know that the decals are probably their weakest point, but they it's all dials and stuff. It looks like it's all in register, although I'm not 100% sure about those two, what they are and whether they're in register. There's quite a bit of film around them, so whether that's going to give us issues when we come to put them in the dials, as in the film will make them oversized, I don't know. Be interesting to see. But certainly none of these decals are printed in the centre of the decal film. They're all sort of off-centre and to one side. So, okay, our next bag, and I'm sort of doing this in reverse order so I can plop everything back in the box as we go. We've got a bag with the tyres in and 4 polycaps. Got to say, I missed the polycaps, but I'm guessing they're connected with the wheels. And then we've got rubber wheels. Now, modelers have mixed views on rubber wheels. Some people don't mind them, some people hate them. My view with rubber wheels is, if they're done well, I don't mind them, because quite frankly you can get plastic tyres that look awful as well. These, as rubber tyres go, are done really well in terms of the tread. The tread pattern is lovely, and you'll really be able to bring that out. In terms of the sidewall, there is no writing or marks on there whatsoever, so I don't know whether there's resin replacements available, but they do look a little bit basic. Whereas if we'd had plastic ones, I bet you we would have had the maker's marks and the sizes and various bits and pieces on there. Yeah. Okay. It does have a raised rim that goes around the middle, but that's the only detail on the tyres. And then, unlike the ones with the Famo, for example, which are hollow, so you get a bit of a weighted view. You haven't got that with these. These are solid, so they're not going to look particularly weighted, but that's probably the right thing for the car. I would say they're sort of 7 out of 10. The only thing missing is the sidewall information, and not everyone's fussed about that. I'm just checking. Yeah, they're all the same. None of them have any information. And obviously, because the boot is moulded closed, we don't have a spare wheel. That is the tyres. Right, my first proper sprue out of the bag. This is one of the larger ones. Is all moulded in black. It's the only one moulded in black, and this is Sprue C. And what we have is all of that tubular framing here that we saw in the first couple of steps, and then we have some of the suspension components. We've got the metal work that goes behind the bumpers there, and the moulding is beautiful and crisp. Tamiya's usual quality plastic. The springs are nicely done, and what I'm looking for is seam, because cleaning seam up on suspension springs is a horrid job, and I can't see any on there. I mean, I've only got my reading glasses on, but I can't see any seam on there at all. I can feel it on the framework, but I can't see it. It's quite smooth there, actually. These are really nicely done parts. So I'm not seeing any flash. Yeah, there's nothing wrong with those. Beautiful. As I flip them over, I see that there's some very small, you see the flats there, ejector pin marks in the springs. Now, I'm guessing when mounted in the car, if you're gluing them in with that side facing inwards, that they're not visible, which I'm guessing why they put them on that side. It's the same with some of these tubes. You can just see at the join points we've got some ejector pin marks. And there, and the ejector pins are very small, but here they are actually wider than the part, so there's a little bit of cleanup needed there. Again, they're all on the inside surfaces. It's well thought through, but one or two of these might be visible, so a lot of test fitting, checking, getting your Mr. Surfacer out. Yeah, but no, I think that's really lovely. That's going to really look the part, isn't it? So, and when you consider that once you put the floor pan in and you put the interior in, you're probably not going to see any of that. Very nicely done. Look at the quality of them springs. Gorgeous. Really, really nice. So our next sprue, Sprue B, which is another large sprue, is done in a sort of dull metallic silver grey type colour. And I'm guessing that's because it's got the engine block on, but actually most of these components wouldn't be metal, so yeah, interesting. What we have got, the main part here is the interior part, and it's really quite a solid piece of styrene, that. Then we've got the engine components there, radiator, dashboard, seats, manifold bits, engine components, rocker cover, dashboard top, steering wheel, which is two-prong. That's interesting. Pedals, they've got nice detail on, the rubber tread detail. Handbrake is a very fine moulding, in fact. I think that must be right. It's got a kink in it, but I think that's correct. And there's that bonnet stay that we saw that I thought might look a little bit thick. And I still think I won't check my references on that. It looks quite chunky, but it may well be right, given how fine some of these parts are. And then the exhaust system there, which has a hollow back. So let's just go through these. In terms of mould seam, almost non-existent, and you're almost just cutting these off, sanding away the nubs and sticking them on. Detail is lovely and crisp. Bolt heads are nice and crisp. They're all round, so you'd have to have a look and see if some of those should be hex heads and things like that, if you really want to go to town with your detail. For me, I would just build it as it is. Yeah, some lovely detail. The timing belt, I think, looks a bit thick, so you might want to cut that off and replace it with some painted masking tape or similar to make that look a little thinner. I think that would add to it. The radiator has a gorgeous pattern on it, looks really, really good. Same with the engine, we've got lots of bolt head detail. Yeah, we've got little diamond plates there, but they don't have fasteners on. Should have, I would think. Rocker cover with the Mercedes logos on. All looks nice with separate screw tops, which is good. Exhaust, again, hardly any seam on it. I can't see it, I can just feel it. Steering wheel, again, no seam, no cleanup. You can feel on my finger at the back there, I can feel all the little hand grips. So let's have a look on the other side. Oh, sorry, the seats all moulded in one. Loses a little bit there on these side walls. We lose a little bit of definition where the seat moulds into this side wall. So you're probably going to want to go around with a little scribe or something and put a bit of definition in. But other than that, all looks fine. As we flip it over, I mean, you can see now all those hand grips on there. Absolutely beautiful. And we've got the detail there on the other side. We do have some ejector pin marks on the inside of the radiator there, and quite a few on this pipe work and stuff, so you are going to have to round them off, but they are raised, he says, so might need a little bit of Mr. Surfacer in places, but generally all good. Couple in the manifold pipe work there, and then in these wheel arches there is small little ejector pin mark. They are sunk ever so slightly. You might be able to just sand them out actually, and then we have quite a few on the undersides here. So again, you need to work out what you're going to see and what you're not. Most of them are in places that are hidden. All looks really nice. Sprue 8, and you can see that's a smaller sprue, and we're in white, high gloss white plastic, because we've got body parts on there. So we've got bonnet doors, the air intakes. That was that little clip there, which I'm sure is for the hinges of the gull wing doors. We've got the steel wheels, which are really nicely done. Those wheel arches, drive shaft, transmission, number plates, different sizes, US and European. Fuel tank there, and then the door liners, which look quite chunky, but that's probably right, and they appear to have some form of texture. They're more matte than the high gloss of the bonnet, if you can see. So there must be some form of texture on there, though I can't see it. Injector pin marks, there's one on that might need looking at, and a couple on there. There are a number on the inside of the bonnet, so if you are going to show the bonnet up, you're going to have to do a little bit of work on the bonnet to sort out the ejector pin marks. Same is true They're very, very slight just there on each corner. I think that's the... Oh, and some on the wheel arches as well. Again, really slight. A very mild grip abrasive would probably take those out. As I look at the bonnet, I have some sink. That surprises me. So just in that area there, don't know if we can catch that in the light, just there is a little bit of sink, so we are definitely going to have to do some work to fill and sand that. It seems to have sort of sloped off towards the edge. Yeah, it's just where this peg point is here. So just where that peg point is, there is a little bit of sink, although it's okay on this side. It's just on that one side. Oh, there's a bit of sink there as well. That's interesting. So yeah, we've got a bit of sink on that little edge there. So a bit of work needed to make that correct. I don't see any sink on anything else. That's the first. The door windows are quite delicate. You've got all the little window frame details in there, which are all quite delicate, nicely moulded. So it's all crisp, it all looks really quite nice. There's no fasteners or anything shown on there, but there is on the inside door detail, so you can see the two little recesses where the handle goes, and there's like another little upper grab handle, I guess, for pulling the door closed, which is moulded in. That might want removing and replacing if it's supposed to be a grab handle because it's solid. Yeah, and that's the first issue we've seen, a little bit of sink. Otherwise, looks really nice. Sprue D, the smallest of all the sprue, deals with the chrome parts. Now, the problem I always have with chrome parts, and I don't build things with chrome parts on very often, is that by the time you've taken off the part off the sprue and cleaned it up, you've always got a bit of the chrome that's been taken away, so then it looks odd. So you're then painting them anyway, so it makes you wonder why they've done it. The other issue is the plating process of putting that chrome on does soften the definition of the parts, which is another sort of minus, if you like. Obviously, the plus side is if you're careful and you deal with the chrome carefully and you can't see where it's been removed, it looks much better than anything you're going to ever achieve with paint. And quite often you get things like flash on it as well, so it's almost a redundant thing. Now, I've never done it, but I believe you can strip the chrome off, so you can repaint it with things like household bleach and stuff like that. So what I'm interested in here is how they've attached the parts and whether we'll be able to take the nubs off and benefit from using the chrome. So the key part for me is the bumpers, because that's the bit that will be visible all the way around. And it looks like what they've done is added the gate to the back edge so that it's not connected underneath, it's connected on the back side. So rather than having the gate, if that's the part, rather than having the gate on there and you've got to clean up that side, it's actually underneath. So you remove it off and clean the inside off, and all of that is nice virgin part. So that is what I was hoping we were going to see, and we have. So big 10 out of 10 for that. They've done it again there with these rubbing strips, so they should clean up okay. That I think goes on, that's the air intake just below the window. So I think that part pushes inside, so I think again, we'll be all right there. The handles for the doors, the gate is on the surface that you're going to glue, so that's okay. Gear stick, it's connected where you glue, and you're going to paint the knob on the top, so that ejector pin can come off, and that's fine. It's attached on the back there, can you see really clearly? Quite a wide gate on that, but so those are all usable. Those, I think, are the rods for the gull-wing doors, and they are attached on the side, so we might have to strip and paint those bits, possibly. We'll see when we come to do it. I think connection points on the grille will be all hidden. Windscreen wipers, it's connected on the rubber blade, so that will get painted. And connected underneath, so not sure if we'll get away with that or not. Windscreen wipers could be a problem. Not quite sure what that is. It's a tiny little part, so not sure about that. The hubs, they seem to be attached on the side rather than the back, which is a shame. But no, actually they're attached on the rim. When I look at it, it's a bit difficult to see in the light. When you look at it, they're actually attached on the rim on the inside. So hubcap should be all right. But interestingly, we saw decals for the three-pointed star, but it's actually raised on the rim as it should be. So some very careful painting of that, because all of that, other than the raised detail, is the body colour. The back of the headlamps, nice. There is no, I don't think there's a, I'll take that back. There is a bulb in there. There is a bulb moulded in there as well. So all good. And that is attached on the back of the rim, so that should be usable. Dashboard attached at the bottom, but I seem to recall we were painting that the interior colour, weren't we? So I think that's usable. I'm not sure if they go in recesses, but if not, then they seem to be attached on the side. That's the two little speakers that go in the little door well. They might need cleaning up. And the overriders, they're attached at the bottom. Yeah, you're definitely going to see the bottom of the overriders. Oh, that's a real shame. If you end up having to clean up the overriders and that's visible, then you're going to have to strip the bumper as well to make it match. We'll have to see, but that looks like the overriders are attached at the bottom, so you're not going to avoid removing the chrome plate on that. Almost all the other parts, I was going to say, almost all the other parts, you can clean the gate off without affecting the chrome, but that's not the case on the exhaust. The tailpipe trim there is attached right on the end where it's going to be visible. So maybe a little bit of exhaust staining to cover it up perhaps. Otherwise, I think most of them are usable. One or two of them we might need to clean up, but to be honest, if you've got one thing that has to be painted, then you're going to have to paint them all to make them all look the same. So you've got to do your best on that, but most of it is well thought out. And the detail is actually surprisingly crisp for chrome plated. Obviously it's a little soft, you could get that dashboard to look a bit crisper. But I think once the decals are on and it's painted up, it will look stunning. So finally, last sprue, obviously we've still got the body to look at, is E, which is the clear parts. What I had missed in the instructions is that this floor pan is clear. So all that framework that you've built in the first couple of steps, you will be able to see if you choose to leave the floor pan clear, so you can see through it. Now you might think, well, actually, it's a bit milky, a bit misty, you're not going to see that much. Well, you can spray it, which will make it go clear, and it will tell you in the instructions about that. There is a Tamiya product that you can use to give it a coat and it becomes clear. It's the same with their engine nacelles on aeroplanes and that sort of stuff on their 132 Mosquito, for example. They did that. But yeah, the clear parts are really nice and clear. The windscreen and the rear window have quite a steep chamfer on it because actually they're quite thick. Don't know if you can see how thick they are. Yeah, they're quite thick. We've got obviously location tabs on there, which I think will be hidden. There's some lovely detail which is printed on the inside of the headlamp lenses. It looks, again, I missed that in the instructions, but the washer bottle is also a clear part. So that's a nice detail. We've got the little indicator lights there, all textured correctly, which is lovely. We are going to have to do a little bit of masking on those front windows. I guess it was too problematic to make them separate, but that is that's countersunk, so that's going to go in behind the bodywork frame, I'm guessing. We'll have a look at the frame in a sec. So that shouldn't need any more work doing to it. Then we've got the rear windows there. Again, the rear indicate lights, I should say. Again, detailed on the inside surfaces. Really nice. I think that's a lovely idea. What a great idea. Now, we said we'd have a look at these rear windows, and you can see why it's masked now. There is no rubber around any of these except for these windows here, these rear windows. So you're going to want to paint the rubber ceiling in black, so that's why they've given you the masks. So that all makes sense now. The final thing to look at is the actual car body itself, which is moulded in white. We've got quite a bit of sprue to remove from there. It says here Tamiya 2015, and again we have a little tab there that says PS. This isn't standard styrene, it's harder. Feels fairly rigid, and the surface detail looks really nice. There is a mould seam running along the top here. I can't see it. Oh yeah, I can just about see it in the light. I can definitely feel it. So it is going to need a gentle sand. I'm just looking for any sink in the light, and no, I can't see any. That mould seam runs, I'm guessing this is slide moulded, it's like a very fine slide mould seam, runs along the top there as well. No, there is no imperfections that I can see at all on that. That chrome grille does get recessed in, so that's all good. We can see that the rubber glazing seals are moulded in front and back, so A little bit of careful masking and painting needed there. And the boot seems a little soft moulded to me. So we're definitely going to have to get a little scriber in there and add a bit of definition to that boot. I'm guessing it's to keep it within a cost point that they've kept the boot closed and you can't open it. It would have been nice to open it, but it's not a major thing for me. And you can see there, we can see there the little mould lines there, slide mould lines there as well. So a little bit of sanding needed on this, but not much. Shape is beautiful though, isn't it? Look at that. Yeah, we've got the little cutouts at the back there. The little frames here are very, very fine, nice and thin. See the location point there for the windscreen, so that'll definitely be covered up. Windscreen wiper locations, little raised lump there for your decal for the badge. Yeah, that is a thing of beauty. So there we have it, Tamiya's 1/24 scale Mercedes-Benz 300 SL. What are my first impressions? I don't review car kits very often. I think this might only be my third since I've had the channel going. And I don't build cars very often. Obviously, we did the Model T Roadster not so long ago, which was the last car I built. But I am really looking forward to this. Subject matter, 10 out of 10. Absolutely stunning car, beautiful design when cars were absolutely gorgeous before the invention of spreadsheets and all the lights have to be in one hub because it's cheaper and all that sort of stuff. It's a proper car made properly. So I really like it. And I'm glad that someone bought it me for Christmas because it is a stunning kit. The plus sides of the kit, really well engineered, very well thought out, particularly around the chrome parts. They've been put on the sprues with a lot of care to make sure that you've minimised any damage to that chrome. So brilliant. The level of detail I think is great. Obviously, you've not got things like leads for the engine, and you'd need to do a little bit of research to see what leads were visible and so on, and a little bit of research on different colours and different interior exterior colour matches. But yeah, otherwise absolutely stunning. Low lights, I almost feel wrong to mention it, but the decals are always a little bit chunky and can be a little bit oversized. But you know, that is par for the course for Tamiya. The only other low light was the little bit of sink there on that corner of the bonnet, and it's so minor it's hardly worth mentioning. It'll easily fill and buff out. So for me, this is a really beautiful subject and a beautiful kit, done really well. I think Tamiya have done an awesome job of it. I like the fact that they've done different coloured sprues, so someone who, like youngster, who wants to just build and not be bothered painting, can come away with something that looks relatively authentic. I've got to say, when painted up, it's going to look amazing, and I'm probably going to do red. So I've then got to think about the interior, because I reckon a red outer would probably be a black inner, would it? I don't know, but I quite like the red interior. I'm just a sucker for red. Don't know. There you have it. It's beautiful. If you're in the market for one of these gull-winged beauties, then definitely think the Tamiya kit is the way to go rather than the 1979 Hella kit. Level of engineering in detail is beautiful. The clear floor pan is just an added little bit of magic if you want it. So yeah, I think it's stunning. It should look stunning when done, and I'm looking forward to building it. So yeah, brilliant. Okay, I hope that was helpful if you've been considering getting a model car, or this particular version. Tells you what you're getting in the kit. Brilliant. Thanks for looking in. Take care, enjoy your modelling, and I will see you very soon.